For those of you guys who don't know me, my name's Corey Reiser. I'm actually a West Point grad. Just got out recently in March of 2022. So I've been out just over a year. FA officer, former FA officer, was stationed at Fort Campbell, Hunter Army Airfield, also Fort Stewart. I was at both of those places down in Georgia with 3rd ID. And then my last duty station was here in Columbus. I was an APMS at Capitol, and originally supposed to be at Ohio State, but I ended up getting Shanghai and pulled over to Capitol. It's much smaller private school here in Ohio. Taught there for about 2 years and then got out. So been around the world, done a couple things, 2 deployments, had a blast in the Army, was a company commander, did the whole FSO, PL, XO, company commander, battalion FSO. It's pretty much just your standard FA pipeline. And then got out as like a senior captain. So good news, what I'm about to tell you guys, everything that I've built financially is basically in the last 3 years. So I've been very fortunate. A lot of people don't go down this route to where they can successfully transition out of the Army, not have a job, work for themselves, build a company, invest in real estate, and basically retire early. I think my overall thesis for everybody that I interact with, young cadets, young officers, captains, what have you, veterans, is the Army is an awesome place. And I just want to be able to have you guys understand money, because money is generally just a problem. And once you solve the problem, it goes away. And it just kind of morphs into other things, but you get better at it. But it's a problem that pretty much everybody faces and most people never conquer. But the good thing is that you absolutely can do it. You guys can all manage your own stuff. You won't need a financial planner or anything. Everything you need is up here, and it can be learned on YouTube. I'll talk more about this, but I'm going to anchor your expectations very low, in that if you don't do anything for like 10 years in the Army monetarily and just basically blow all of your money and opportunity, you can still turn it around in like a year or two and be just fine. So, and I'm telling you that because that was me. Like, I have no regrets about getting to where I'm at. But my point is, if you guys start early, you can chip away slower over time. And then my kind of end state for teaching about this stuff and talking about it is at your guys' commissioning. From there, you have a contract. West Point was 5 years. Some of you guys are 3 or 4 years. If you do a decent portion of this stuff while you're on active duty, I think the goal for pretty much anybody is when it comes time to make your decision to stay in the military, continue serving, or get out, it is based solely off of whether you like it or not. Because a lot of people that I've talked to will stay in, they like the benefits and everything else. If you can remove that like stress of money out of the situation, I think that just leads to overall happiness earlier on in life, and it'll free you up. And I'm telling you, every single one of you, every person that I'm looking at can absolutely do this. It's not super difficult, and everybody has to go kind of their own path on it, but just learning the information and learning as much as you can, kind of being a sponge every day, is going to set you up better. Last thing I'll say is learning about money, learning about real estate, your own business, whatever it is that you want to do. It's not about making money. It's about becoming a new person, kind of shed your old skin, and then kind of morph into something better. And then just kind of go and go and go. And you're just iterating over time. So that's a quick little backstory. And I'm saying this stuff because I've lived an exceptionally awesome life. I'm not by any means raking it in like Buffett or anybody else. But if I want to, my freedom is designed or described as, if I want to stay on this call for 4 or 5 hours with you guys, or I want to go travel to Syracuse right now and get in my truck and leave, I can, because I don't answer to anybody. I built my own stuff. I live modestly, and then my real estate and business and other distributions and stuff pay for that. And that, in my opinion, is like freedom. That's as I describe it. But I think a lot of other people and people that I've talked to, they kind of share the same thoughts on it. And everybody thinks that it's like, oh, I'll always have a job, and then you just work for 25, 30 years and then retire, and then you're kind of old. I think that given in today's society with all the technology and the world is at your fingertips, nobody's just taught you guys how it works. So I think the best way, I mean, you guys took time writing these questions up. I can go into specifics and just rip down these questions, talk through each question. We can take questions as we go. It's kind of up to you guys. I'm very informal. You want to start there? I try not to be too like high level. I don't know. Does anybody have any experience with real estate or business or anything? Pretty much just school system, get a job, good education, save for retirement, and then at some point down the line, kick the bucket, and that's pretty much it. Okay, cool. That's what I was taught too. So good starting point. All right. So, okay. First question here. Please tell us what you did to achieve financial freedom. Essentially an overview of my business, when I started, how it's grown over the months and years, and what I hope to do with it in the next 20 years. So pretty simple. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was the start line for me. Once I read that, I fundamentally changed the way that I see money, that I see business. Also, I find Robert Kiyosaki, he was a veteran and his life kind of mirrors mine just in timeline, but he's like a generation or two earlier than me. So he went to Kings Point, played football. I went to West Point, played lacrosse. He commissioned into the Marine Corps as a captain or as an officer. I commissioned to the Army. He went to Vietnam. I went to Afghanistan. And then we both kind of got to this point in our lives where we wanted something else. We didn't want to stay in the military, and we wanted to go try our own stuff. So he was just ahead of me, wrote the book, and the first thing to start working down the road to your financial freedom is changing the way that you view money. So I will not do the book. I'll do the book a disservice. Just go read that first. If you walk away from here right now and just hang up, just go read that book, and that's a great start point for you. That's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The author's name is Robert Kiyosaki. All that I did was, once I read that book, I started realizing that entrepreneurs and business owners don't work for money. So in the military, in your W-2 job, everybody works for money. You show up to work, you get paid. You show up to work, you get paid. So entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, they don't work for money. This is a big fundamental shift for people. So everything that I did in the last 3 years, I didn't care about money. I cared about what I was learning and how I can correlate that to something in the future and making like more strategic moves. So for example, right? So a big risk for real estate getting started when I don't have a ton of capital, you got to pay for services, you got to pay for goods, something breaks. I hedged my own risk by going into not great areas of Columbus where they were building and contractors were working on the weekends and in the evenings sometimes. And I would just go find contractor trucks and I'd work alongside them. I'd bring coffee or whatever, and I just go work beside these guys, and I would learn the stuff that they were doing and figure it out. And that did two things. That built my confidence so that I knew that as I bought this real estate, if something broke, I could maybe fix it myself, or I could at least see what right looks like. And then I could find the right subcontractor and get the correct price quote, which limited my risk. So I didn't get paid for doing any of that. However, in the future, because I learned the information, that translated to probably at least several $1,000s, maybe tens of thousands of dollars in savings. Had I picked the wrong subcontractor that was feeding me a line of BS, or, maybe I fixed something. I fixed a lot of things on my own that helped me out a ton. But you have to start thinking of, none of you guys are getting paid right now, but I guarantee you're going to learn something. That's how you have to start thinking of, like, just getting started. Is you got to change the way you think and that you've been taught. And then you have to just be constantly invested in learning as much as you can. And you kind of like learn a little bit and then you do, and learn a little bit and do. And if you just keep doing that, like jab, jab, punch, like right hook, you're going to start to compound on not only on your earnings, but on your knowledge. And that's just going to increase your confidence level getting started. But basically all that I did for this, learned about the VA loan, bought as much real estate as I could while I had active duty pay. Captains get paid pretty good money. So I was in really good lending posture. Banks love lending me money because I had plenty of stuff coming in. And then on the side, so I invested in real estate, educated myself. And then the other one was I picked a side hustle. And that just happened to be Airbnb and short-term rentals. I'd also messed around with some crypto stuff. That's probably for another call. But I looked at everything and I tried to find assets and liabilities, and I tried to acquire assets and buy things that looked and smelled like assets. And I just started doing a lot of different things. Some of them were great, some of them weren't. But at the end of the day, I haven't died yet. And I feel more invincible than I did when I got started. Because the best thing for me is, if everything goes away, everything, I still have this and I know where to start. And I can get myself back up on my feet in like a week, like very quickly. So that's kind of just how I got started. Where I see this going. So I'm going to build my real estate company, get that a little bit larger. I'm in school right now to get my real estate license, which, quite honestly, I don't really want to do, but I've been presented with an opportunity to pick up like a couple hundred short-term or long-term doors as a property manager. So ipso facto, that's just a way of vertically integrating my company. So that's a good opportunity. So the GI Bill will pay for my real estate license. It's kind of a no-brainer. I'm actually getting paid to go to school right now, which is, you guys still get a stipend? Yeah. So I'm in school getting paid to learn more. And then as soon as I finish that and get my license, then I acquire those new doors, put them under our system, and then just increase the revenue off of that. So kind of just pick something when you get to your side hustle, whatever that is, pick something you think you can be good at, not necessarily something that you like, to start and get really good at it. Just do that. So work on real estate. That should be like a portion of your time. And then your side hustle, you can just grow that by picking something that you think you're going to be good at. Short term, I want to build it. I want this company. I'm templating my real estate company to be about 36 million as a valuation in the next like 3 to 5 years. And then long-term net worth is 360 million. That means absolutely nothing. I could care less about money, but what money does for me is it gives me influence. And we seem to follow people that really don't have any business giving us advice. They just have a ton of money. And we see them as like these idols, as like a society. And I just see, if I have a higher net worth, people are just going to listen to what I have to say. And if I'm trying to help them, it kind of greases the skids to where people would be more likely to listen. It sounds weird and backwards, but I promise you it does make actual sense. But I want to be, after this company, I want to be a like younger, better version. Not that he's bad, but I want to just be a better version, more impactful than Kiyosaki. Like, I want to take as many ROTC students, young officers, as I can and turn them into either entrepreneurs or just independently successful people. Because what I've seen in business is, quite honestly, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of greedy people. And I just think that the military gives you a very good, humble beginning. You learn people skills, you learn humility, you learn empathy. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have been out in the operating force, but like, you're going to deal with a lot of different people. And there's a lot of people that are going to like need you to help them personally, financially, not giving them money, but like helping them navigate their own problems. You're going to be a leader. And I just think that the military builds people better, but it doesn't teach them how to create value for others financially. So the way I look at it is like, if I can teach each of you to start your own business and employ 6 people or 5 people, right? That's a 15x on 5 people. So I can have you guys starting companies that are creating value for other people, solving problems. Because I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the world's a wild place right now, and it's going to need leaders, and it's going to need people to kind of take the torch through, I think, like what's coming. Like, it's just not inflation. It's just not heading in a great place. And I think that's my value, is I can teach this stuff. I can get better at it myself. And if I can help you guys get started, even just reduce the fear of worrying about money, it'll open up your guys' eyes and help you guys help your families and whatever. So long-winded first answer, but that's kind of generally where I see it going. Any questions thus far? Feel free to chime in. I know you guys are usually like gun shy on the first couple, so. Okay. How did I get into investing into property? Why was this something you wanted to get into? And would you advise others that are in similar positions to invest in property? Okay, so first off, I'll say this, I think I'm legally responsible for saying this. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. However, what I would recommend is you learn as much as you can and figure out what you want to do in life, and use money, real estate, and business as a tool to get what you want out of life. That's all money is. Money is a tool. Money is an axe, and it's the wood, and it's the fire starter, but you don't need any of those things. You want the warmth that the fire provides. So without those things, you wouldn't get, the fire started. You guys just want the warmth and the happiness because it's cold outside, right? You want to be able to start the fire. So if you start the fire, you can invite other friends around the fire and keep them warm as well. And that's just like a little kind of silly analogy, but that's just the way I see money. Is it's just a tool for doing things and helping other people. The reason I got started into real estate is the military benefits, specifically the VA loan, are very, very advantageous if you learn to use them in a certain way. And if you learn about them, you're not guaranteed anything, right? But you're also not guaranteed that you're going to get a retirement out of the Army. There's no guarantee in anything. And sometimes they see the Army or a job as something like very safe and secure. But I don't know if you guys looked at, recent ongoings. Silicon Valley's laying off a ton of people. All these businesses are laying people off. And those people are very specified into their job like title and their job occupation and what they do. And if that thing goes away, but they spent, $100,000 getting their education to get to that spot. And if that thing goes away, they're pigeonholed into that. And now they have no other means of making money. Where I want you guys to focus your time and attention, or where I would recommend, is you want to become a generalist. So you want to get pretty good at a lot of different things. And that's going to make you more lethal as I'll talk 2 places. So that'll, like, as an officer, you want to learn as much as you can about a lot of different things, right? So talk military real quick. I was a fire support officer as an artillery officer. So I learned fire maneuver. I went to Ranger school, learned about as much as I could about everything. And I became a pretty good FSO because I understood maneuver and I understood better how to support it. And they could take me, a fire support officer with a Ranger tab, and I could go be a platoon leader at the drop of a hat. I could just go take over a platoon and have a platoon sergeant, squad leaders, and take over with no issues. The infantry officers couldn't reverse that because I had at that time like 8 months of school. I went to JFO. I had a lot of time on the Hill and stuff. They couldn't just learn that overnight. So I made myself more of like a Swiss Army knife. And I just like, let's just say hypothetically that the FSO position went away, I could pivot immediately into being a platoon leader. So think of money and business and real estate as those types of things, to where if this went away, I still have the knowledge where I can go create something else. If you can do that over time, you're gonna increase your confidence, and B, increase the likelihood that you're going to be set financially over time. Because it has nothing to do with actual like money. It has everything to do with like your mind and your brain and how you think and what you do. But the reason I got into investing in property was just because I'd found out about the VA loan. I realized how powerful it was. And it was, from a tax perspective, from a money down perspective, I can tell you specifically from my perspective. So when you buy real estate, you're buying an asset class, right? So you're buying a tax depreciated, cash flowing thing if you use it to house hack. So if you use the VA loan to house hack, which basically means you buy the property and you rent out the other rooms to 3 other people, and they pay most of your mortgage, if not all of it, and your expenses. That's a house hack. That's building a small business. Or you buy a duplex and you rent out the other side, and then you live on one side and rent out the other room. So now you've got all these other little streams of income. That is the only way that I would recommend buying real estate. You start by house hacking and just roll that over until you increase your cash flow, and then take that and then go put it into something else. And you're constantly just churning your cash flow. Me specifically in Columbus, Ohio, granted, I was a captain at the time. I had really good active income. Plus I had some other stuff that I rolled into it, but I bought $580,000 worth of Columbus, Ohio real estate, making at the time like 15% year over year. So the reason that that's so powerful is if you are a stock trader and you want to go buy Tesla stock, and you go up to Elon Musk and you're like, bro, let me get 580K worth of your stock, but I'm not going to actually give you any money. I just want that value. And that stock I want to make 15% a year, or 2%, whatever, right? What's Elon Musk going to say? He's going to say, yeah, sure. Like if you give me $580,000, I'll give you the value of the stock and I'll give you the shares, right? So you can take an asset class with zero money down on the VA loan. And even if it's making you 2%, I'm not a math guy, but do this. So what is 2% of 500,000? You guys should be really good at math by now. Anyone?
10,000.
10,000. Fantastic. So you just made an infinite return if you went and bought real estate and all of your debt is going to be paid down by your roommates, and you make 2% on that 500,000, right? Whatever that is, it can be 10% or whatever. Imagine you had, 100 grand in cash and you put that into a stock. What would your return you have to be on 100K versus 2% of 500 is more than 4% of 100, right? If you think of it that way, that's one of the reasons I started buying real estate, because I realized that if I buy this thing and I do all the legwork and realize what it's approximately going to make, I'm making money while I sleep, because the rest of the city and the area is going up around it. And it's increasing the value of my property, and I'm not doing a damn thing. So I'm just putting my money to work for me. but I'm not even putting my money to work for me. I'm putting the bank's money to work for me. So the real estate stuff specifically is like a whole other class, but I'm just going to kind of touch on as much as I can here. Does that make sense to you guys? Like you're putting bank money to work and you're just managing the debt. It's gotten harder now. I was like cheating. Like interest rates were below 3% when I was buying all this stuff. So if I bought, think of it this way, right? At the time, inflation is through the roof now. It's like out of control. But let's say inflation was 2.5%. And I bought at 2.5%. And that was my loan. That basically like kind of, if you think about it, it kind of cancels itself out, because I'm like getting a 500x on my return, because I'm taking money that's not mine, but I get, if I take out 500K and it increases in value over the next 3 years to this, and my loan gets paid down, now this is bigger, I still keep this. That's the beauty. Like that's one of the big principles about real estate is you get, here's my loan. I make a percentage on this whole property. So it's going to go up this way. And then my tenants and my roommates are paying my mortgage down. So on that 500,000, let's say it's $10,000 a year in mortgage pay down, right? So now I had increase in value of a couple percent. That's 10 grand. But also I paid down my mortgage and that's 10 grand. But let's say my principal pay down was only 5 grand. So I walk away after that first year at 15 grand up. Right. And then that just compounds and compounds and compounds. So that's how important that is, because while you're in the field, while you're deployed, while you're doing whatever it is that you're doing, your money's working for you. You will only make this amount as a second lieutenant. Maybe you get jump pay, you make a little bit more. You make this amount as a second lieutenant, and then you'll make this amount as a first lieutenant, and then that amount as a captain, and that's it. So my real estate, it compounds. You know what compounding interest is? Pretty simple, right? So I get 2% of $500,000 or 100,000. And then next year I get, if it makes that same percentage, I get 2% on 102,000 and then 104 and change, right? It goes up and up and up. That is the reason I got into real estate. Once you understand that, you'll start to figure it out. And I did that because I knew that I could work. Let's say I bought $1 million in real estate in the last couple of years in debt, and I manage the debt through rentals or through other forms of income that I generate off the properties, storage spaces, renting garages, stuff like that. If I have $1 million in debt or $1 million in value, that all took me, I'm going to be very generous here and say 2 months in the last 3 years, 40-hour work weeks. So the underwrite, like learning the underwriting, like getting underwritten, sending all the tax documents, all that stuff, 2 months generated me $1 million in real estate. And if I make 5 or 6% averaged out over the year on $1 million, 6% of $1 million is what, like 60 grand? That's like a modest return on real estate. That's like very average. So every year, if I own $1 million in real estate and I get 6% returns in the markets that I'm in, and I do the research and everything else, I make 60 grand this year. Next year, that'll be 120, so on and so forth. And it just compounds. That is the reason why I talk about this stuff, because it is so powerful if you learn how to do it properly. Even if you mess it up, you're going to be on active duty. You're going to have, I'll tell you a little aside. I get really long-winded because I have a lot of information and I'm trying to give it to you guys like as fast as I can. So I don't know how much time we're going to have on the call, but I tell it to you like this. Okay. If I gave you all of my like oopses that I didn't know that I was making at the time, I had my Cal loan, which for you guys is just your career starter loan. That's what it's called. At West Point, they call it the Cal loan. I basically burned all of that. I lived in Nashville. My first duty station was Nashville. I lived in Nashville and lived in Clarksville. I had 2 places, both rentals. blew all of my money, had no savings, had an absolute blast. It was awesome. Didn't buy real estate in Nashville. And even though I was actually kind of, for a portion there, I was saving a lot of money, I put it in the G fund of the TSP, which made me 2%. And I was missing out on a return over that time had I just stuck it in the C fund of 12%. So I should have had like double and change the amount that I had ended up, selling for cash when I got out of the military and buying real estate. And this is the disgusting part. This is why I'm having this conversation with you guys, because I don't want you to make this mistake. But if you do, I promise you can still pull yourself out. The properties that I could have purchased and qualified for, had I learned this exact thing that I'm telling you guys right now on this Zoom call, I would have bought for about $200,000, maybe $250,000 in Nashville in 2013, 14. Do you have any idea how much those properties are worth? That's just one property doing what I'm explaining. Do you know how much those are worth today?
750,000.
Try like 950, $1 million. Great guess though. Those, if you go on Zillow and you find something in the downtown region or in Germantown or East Nashville, go on Zillow and look at a property that was at $250,000 ish in Nashville during 12 or 13 or 14, and look what it's at now. It goes like this. So imagine leaving the military, not even with $1 million walking out. Imagine leaving the military and you just sell your real estate. And if you live in the property, this is a pro tip. If you're single and you live in the property for 2 years and it's your primary residence, you can sell that property at any time and keep $250,000 tax-free. So you don't pay capital gains on it because you're an owner occupant. So imagine leaving the military, selling that real estate or doing a cash out refinance and only having 50 grand. Let's say 60, right? So if you live at $5,000 a month and that's your burn rate of expenses, you don't actually need to get a job, because that money, you also didn't do anything to get that money. That was all the market. That was, you did the research and you did a little bit of risk assessment and you bought it. And now, 6, 7, 8 years later, you walk away with 50 grand in tax-free money. Imagine having that in the back of your brain as you go to transition out of the Army and you're worried, like, what if I'm not good enough to get a job, or do I need to get a job? And you had that 50 grand. That is a massive amount of money to get you guys across that threshold and bring your risk down and bring your worry down. That is substantial money. And I would have, had I known this stuff, had somebody put me under their wing and explain this stuff to me earlier, grab me by the collar and been like, dude, just do this, listen to me. But I didn't have anybody like that. So I'm here talking to you guys. Be that as it may, even without that, I still just got to the end of my career, learned it, and then still built it kind of the same way. But that is that's my oops that I didn't know that I was making. And that is life altering money for anybody. That's how important the stuff that I'm talking to you about is. And I'm not saying you're going to be able to be in a market that is like Nashville. Nashville is a fantastic market. But I also missed buying in Savannah, Georgia, which at the time also wasn't great, but that's another monster market today that's doing really well. So long story short, just pay attention to this stuff. If it's for you, fantastic. If it's not, don't worry about it. You're still going to be successful. You're still going to do great stuff. But that's how important what I'm telling you guys is, or was, at least to me. Does that make sense? Does anybody have a question? I feel like I talk a lot. Chime in.
Yeah. You keep talking about the VA loan. Could you go more in depth about that? Because I don't really know much about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was actually 2 questions down, but I'll hit that one now. Good question. All right. So the VA loan, I'll give you a down and dirty on it. You can go on also, have you guys messed with ChatGPT? You guys should be rocking on that every single day. Like every day until they take it away or until it becomes pro. If it becomes pro, buy it and just use it. Because that thing is like nothing. I have used it for what it's worth for now. Maybe it'll eventually take over the world. I have no idea. But that thing is a monster. You can prompt it. Hey, I am a brand new Army officer and want to learn about the VA loan. Give me a rundown of, give me a step or give me like a list of the things that I would have to do in order to get approved and buy a property using the VA loan. And it will spit that out for you. It is unbelievable. I mean, just go mess around with it. Just go type in VA loan. Like, tell me something about the VA loan. But what I'll tell you about it without, if you don't want to go do that, it's 0% down. If you're on active duty, it's a 2% funding fee. So if you buy a property and let's say you got $5,000 that you saved up, this is how I recommend doing it. Because this is what I did. Not that what I did was right. It's just, this is what worked for me. You got $5,000 in cash. Okay. Everybody else needs to put at least 3.5% down. Right. So if you buy $100,000 house, of that $5,000, you got to put $3,500 down to close on the property. The VA loan is not. You don't have to do that. So what I would always recommend is do your assessment, look and see if you think it's a decent enough real estate market. If you buy a home for $100,000, your loan amount will be for $102,000. So they'll put that into the cost basis of the loan. And then your $5,000, you take that and you make a couple of small improvements or put that to work elsewhere. Okay. So what I did, I'll give you a specific for my property. So I had, this is like a hack. This is technical information that you can use. So the first, I did 2 single family homes, knocked those 2 out. And then right after that, I bought my first condo. So I did 2 homes for $100K. I had 2 partners. I put 12.5 grand down, 6 and change on each, bought those properties. And then right after that, those are out of state. I have still never seen them to this day. We pulled 80 grand in equity out of those across our 3 partners in tax-free money about a year ago and locked in a rate at about 4%. They still cash flow about $700 combined a month. So we make that, and they've made us thousands of dollars in the past couple of years. Right after that, I did a single family condo for $300K. Didn't really do too much to that. I actually got paid $3,000 to close on that. Like, I got paid $3,000 to close on my first property. That's how like disgusting this thing is. Once you realize like what it actually is and what you can do with it. I just got a seller credit for the windows. I never fixed the windows because I didn't really have to. They just had like the window seals are broken. So I took that $3,000, I put it in my pocket and lived in the property for about a year and then rented it out. Then I used the remainder of my VA loan for $280,000 purchase price. The maximum amount that I can use for my VA, this is going to be a whirlwind, but I'll just explain this to you guys because you'll see how fast it compounds. So the maximum amount for the VA loan here in Columbus is, or in Ohio, is $500K. So I bought 300 and then 280K. So because I had a great lender and I moved across town and I bought another property using my VA loan, I went 80 grand over the maximum allowable amount for the loan. So I owed 25%. Okay. On that 80. So let's say, I think it was like 24 grand or something. So I needed to write a check for that second duplex. I bought a duplex for 24 grand. So my lender said, hey, we can do this. We were supposed to close at the end of 2020. He goes, if you wait till closing in January of 21, we can put a larger funding fee into this property and take a larger note out. And then you can bring your cash down to, it ended up being $2,700. So now I went from owing 24 grand or 22 grand or something like that. Now I keep that in my pocket. So I got 24 grand that I had saved up. I worked really hard for, was disciplined, right? Put that in my pocket. At closing, I bought a fully occupied duplex with tenants on both sides paying $750 and $750. That was like well under rented. So part of the contract was that I had to occupy, the VA loan is an owner occupied property, but I didn't actually have to occupy until 60 days after closing. Additionally, more knowledge, your loan doesn't kick in for 60 days. So you buy the property and the loan doesn't start for 60 days. So I had no payments. So if you remember, I got the 3 grand from the first one that was still sitting on the sidelines. Now I chose to go with a higher funding fee, keep that cash. 60 days go past. I don't have any expenses on this property. And now I got 3 grand again. To close on that duplex on that property, I owed $2,700. So I owed $2,700 and I got that back $3,000. So, and essentially I'm up $300. Then I occupied the property and the one tenant on the one side moved out because they were on month to month. So part of the contract for me buying that property was they had a month to month tenant. We gave them 90 days notice, which if you know anything about leasing, you only got to give them a 1 month's notice for them to move out. So they got 90 days, set themselves up. I occupied 60 days in. Then I took this might be too much detail for you guys. I don't want to go like too in depth, but I'm showing you just how like, I'm not a super smart dude. You just have to you have to like work the system and use it to your advantage. So know what the VA loan is, and then be able to kind of like reverse engineer that to allow you to do the most with it. So walked into basically 580K just in the VA loan alone. And that's how I ended up doing that. Any of you, if you did a little bit of research on this for about a month prior to graduation or while you're at Bullock and you start looking for properties at your first duty station and you buy sometime in the first year, you can do all of that. You find another couple lieutenants and you're the guy that buys the property and you charge them, a flat fee for rent. I had a buddy that did this when I was at Hunter. He killed it. He had 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a 4-bathroom house. It was a dump. He was cash flowing like $1,500 a month. It was like a frat house. Like it was disgusting. He sold it and walked away with like 90 grand in profit. The guy he sold it to split the house and turned it into a cash flowing duplex. I had no idea what this kid was doing. Then once I started learning about the loan and everything, I figured it out and I was like, geez, this kid was like way ahead of his time. But that's absolutely stuff that you can do. Very in-depth, long aside. I might have over circuited your guys' brains, but did you guys follow that? Was that beneficial, like for you guys to understand that, to see like how I kind of walk through that? That was also a very painful process. Like it didn't go that smoothly. Like I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot through that process, but that's it in a nutshell. If you guys just do something similar to that, you have to learn a lot about real estate. But if you do that, I think you're going to set yourself up for success. Just better than I did from the start. So I hope that helps, but great question. I hope that answered it. Is that good?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right. What point in my Army career can an officer start a side business? Good question. Whoever asked that. Pretty much any side of it. I can tell you guys my experience. So I didn't start anything until I really got up to Columbus. My PMS was not a super chill dude. He and I did not see eye to eye. But because we didn't see eye to eye, it actually forced me to work harder and find other options, because I just kind of set the goal that this is what I want to do in my life. And this guy, whoever he is, they're not going to be there for your next phase in life. And you got to help yourself and set yourself up for success, because nobody is going to allow you to do that. Everybody's always going to constantly steal your time. They're going to say the Army is the most important thing in the world. I assure you, the Army is very important, but your body over time will eventually tap out. I hit 10 years, Ranger school. I spent all my time in the 18th Airborne Corps. I didn't even go to jump school, but rucking, long nights, the Army is absolutely ruthless on your body. And I'm not the best athlete in the world, but I did play, Division I lacrosse at West Point. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. And I'm not like an unathletic person. It is ruthless on your body. So eventually your body will tap out. 20 years. If you retire at 20 years, and what's average life expectancy? 72, 75. You still got 30 some odd years to go, 40 years, 50 years. My grandfather lived through just about everything there is. He's born like the early 1900s. The guy lived to be 96 years old. If your parents or you have $1 million saved in a checking account or for your 401k or something, you're going to, depending on your life expenses, whatever your mortgage is, whatever type of lifestyle you're living, that maybe buys you 10 years worth of savings. Because you're probably going to burn through 75, 80, 100K a year. Taxes and inflation are going to cut the rest. So if you work, you use all of your workable years, and that gets you to a certain point, then you really can't work as much anymore. So you really only have this. And then as we get older, our minds kind of deteriorate. So you're using your most valuable production years. If you're just trading time for money, your body will eventually deplete itself, and then you can't trade your time and body for money. So you have to have some other vessel that's going to go to work for you. That's your money. Like, think of your money as like you're an infantry company commander, and you're like controlling the platoons. I'm going to put one platoon here. They're going to take on real estate. Second platoon is going to go take on side hustle. I'm going to build a t-shirt company because I'm funny and I can make slogans, and I think I can do some Instagram marketing or whatever that is. That's going to make a couple $100 a month or whatever. Then I'm going to put something in this, whatever, right? If you think about it like that, you're sitting back here and you're controlling, but you're not actually like engaged in the fight. And then let's say like third platoon is your W-2 pay. Maybe you're the maneuver commander and you go with third platoon, right? And you do that and you're on the ground and you're doing that stuff. That's your W-2 pay. Does that make sense? Because eventually you're going to tap out. Like, I feel great. Like, I'm not going to complain at all, but your body will eventually tap out. And the reason I talk to you guys about this stuff is these things are going to start to generate cash flow and money for you. When you build a business, the purpose is not for you to make the money. The purpose is for you to create market value, bring other people in, incentivize them properly, create enough value for them to want to work for you and be a part of your business. Then you create a machine, and your employees, you take the risk out of their life. You took the risk by starting the business. Your employees are now running the machine. They gas it up. They change the oil, right? They do all that stuff. Now you step away and you go start and build another engine. That's all that a business is. So if you just do that in small portion up front, you're giving yourself an opportunity to, when you're older, if that thing's cash flowing, or maybe you sell it for a couple $100,000 or $1 million or whatever over time. Now you take that and you can put that into something else. So it's kind of just like you're thinking, like work smarter, not harder. That's pretty much what I'm just explaining how to do with your money. Make sense? All right. Please explain why and how you pulled your TSP. Who asked that question? That's a good one. Why and how?
Sir, I saw it on your TikTok, and I thought I watched the video of you explaining it. I didn't think it made the most sense in the video.
That's a really good question. Okay, so I'll preface what I'm about to say with I don't have kids. I'm not married. I have nobody to worry about but myself at this point in life. So I am an absolute basically cowboy when it comes to my money, because this is just how my brain works. I know that I am an outlier when it comes to this stuff. I know that if I lost absolutely everything today, my truck is paid off and I can go live in that and travel around the country. I can go bust tables. I can do whatever I need to do to get myself back on my feet. So I am wildly like not risk adverse. I take a lot of risk. Okay. I will say this. If you guys can limit your expenses, if anybody branches combat arms or whatever, you're going to go to the field, you're going to be miserable. I think this is actually a superpower that I have, is that I am wildly happy based off of my Army experience if I'm not out in the cold, getting rained on and sleeping outside. So any tier up from that, that is my baseline of happiness. Most people need a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house in a good suburb to be happy. I just need to be dry and warm. And I'm very, very happy with that. So that's my superpower, because that allows me to take on a boatload of risk, because I don't have to worry about providing for other people right now. And that's just how I did that deliberately, because I knew that if I could build this and get it started, I can provide for other people down the road. But that's the anchor point for what I'm about to say. So as I got out of the military, I did the unthinkable and I liquidated my retirement plan. So I have no retirement plan. I liquidated all of it. I have no 401k. I have no TSP. I have nothing. All that I did was bet on myself that I'll be able to provide for myself in the future. If I fail, I have nobody to blame but myself. However, when I know I'm not going to fail, because I can explain that later, but because also like I only, just like you guys, like I define my success to me. Once you get out of the competitive nature of where you guys are at, like I play a lacrosse game, hours left, right? When that game is done, there's a winner and there's a loser. Once you get out of that environment, I'm still competitive. However, I'm defining how I'm winning. So, and I'm also defining how I'm losing, but I'm never actually losing. I'm always learning or winning. So now that you guys know me, your life will be forever altered, because you'll never lose again in your life. You're only going to win or you're going to learn. And if you think about life like that, even if something really bad happens to you, that's just a learning lesson. And if you can really wrap your head around that, you will have an infinite mindset and you will be forever enduring. Like you'll just continuously grow. I'd encourage you to do that. You don't have to do that. That's just the way my brain works. So getting back to this though. So very low expectation of living, very low expenditure. Like I can pretty much live on like $3,000 a month, which I'm 34 now. Like most people can't do that. Most people have student loan debt. They've got mortgage payments. They've got all this other stuff. I got 7 doors just that I own, and they're all rented and they all cash flow. So I have no bad debt. All that debt's making somewhere between 6 and 12 or 15% a year averaged out. So I'm not, if everything that I have goes to zero, I'm in pretty much like 5 or 6 different spaces. That's like Armageddon. So if everything I have goes to zero, we got bigger problems to worry about. And also Columbus, Ohio is like the number 3 real estate market in the country. And if this tanks, we're kind of screwed as a country anyway. So it's all out the window. It's like the apocalypse. So with my TSP, so I looked at what my TSP was. I bought a duplex with it. So essentially what I did was, and I would encourage you guys to learn about this. So the TSP, where you guys can start out, you can put in your 5% and match it and put it in the C fund, which is basically like the S&P 500 You put it in S fund. You can figure that stuff out on your own. But I had about 100 grand saved up over the last like 8 or 10 years, which really isn't that much because I was earning like 2% on it, and it's not a great return. So I looked at real estate. I looked at Columbus. I looked at what I wanted to do with my life, and I got approved conventionally to buy a property. The property's purchase price, I got it for like 156, and I owed like 25% on it or 20% or something. So I was like, I think it was like all closing costs and everything. I think it was like 44 grand. So the TSP, you can lend, you can turn your account into a bank. So the same way that you go to a bank and get a loan, that money is in this account. Let's say I have 100K. I can go to the bank of Corey, and I could say, hey, bro, I want to take 50 grand out. And what interest rate is that? So at the time, it was 1.5%, which is just disgustingly low. That's like free money. So now I take this 50 grand and I have it over here. This is 1.5% interest, and I owed like $800 a month back to myself. So I'm paying myself back 1.5% interest, and I'm paying that back into here until this gets all the way paid down and goes back into here. It's free money. It's my own money, but I'm just leveraging it to put it into something else. So what I did was I took that 50 grand at 1.5% interest. I took the other 6 grand, I put that into something else. And then I had that 44 as the down payment. So I put that down payment in, bought the property. That property was in, I probably should have never bought that place, but it's gone up like just disgusting in value. I did like I think it's like 25% return in like a year. It is just, it ripped because that neighborhood was, you buy in areas that are developing that need work, and then everybody else goes into those neighborhoods and flips them, and people move into the area, they need housing, and it increases the value of your home. So there was a big storm. I ended up getting a insurance claim on it, and that helped me out a tremendous amount, because the way it worked out was like the roofing and siding were so out of date that they couldn't replace it. So they had to do a wholesale. So I basically got like a 45, almost $50,000 renovation. I think it was like 44 grand or 45 grand or something. I got brand new roof and brand new siding. Don't bank on that. That is like an absolute anomaly, but that's just what happened to me. So I got brand new roof and siding. I added gutters for like couple grand. And now I've got a monster return back. Even now, like there's still a demand for that thing selling like 50, 60 grand higher than what I bought it at. So I took that out, and now I've got that property. So I had a mortgage for 750, and I had that thing for 800. So when I went there, I bought the property. I increased the rent on one side, like $300 and like $200 on the other side. So my tenants, with no issues, they hadn't had a rent raise in like 15 years. So increased the rent a little bit, kept the tenants in there. So now those two things, those two 700, 750 and 850, I think, on rent, were basically paying down all my debt. So the one side paid my mortgage, and the other side paid my TSP loan. So that's what I did with my TSP loan. Then I got out of the military, rolled all of that stuff over, liquidated everything, and I'll pay like a boatload of fees on that because I liquidated it. But I took the cash now. It's my own personal choice. I did it, and we'll see what happens from there. But now I own that property. That property's probably got, I don't know, like 100K maybe in equity. And at the drop of a hat, if I sold that, I'm walking away with 75, 80 after taxes, unless I roll it into a 1031 and I just go buy more real estate with that. That's the way the game is played. I'm not big. This is like just small. These are really, really small potatoes, what I'm talking to you guys about. When you get starting getting into like 15, 20, 30 units, 60 unit, 100 units, that gets a little bit heftier. But that's why I see myself as invincible, not because this really isn't that much money. It's the knowledge that I've gotten and the confidence that I've built through doing this stuff. That's the value. So like all of the things that I just explained to you, I pretty much walked you guys through like everything that I've done in the last 3 years, financially, all the moves, and we're an hour in and I've given you all the secrets. Like that took me a very, very long time, a lot of sleepless nights. It's a ruthless process. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's very lonely and it is ruthless mentally, physically. It's very challenging. However, after 3 years, I have things today that other people that were in my same shoes and started at the same spot, they can't do. They don't have the freedom that I have. And again, like I'm not raking this in, but I just have enough living expenses are here and enough passive income to provide for the things that I enjoy doing. So that answer your question on the TSP. That's a really good question. I forgot that I made that TikTok, but use that for what it's worth. I just want you guys to know that that stuff is out there. You don't have to do anything that I do. In fact, I would advise against most of it because some of it is pretty risky, but that's just what I did and that's what happened. And I just want you guys to know that A, this stuff exists, and B, every single person that I'm looking at, you guys can do all of this. Because if we went back, like my GPA in school was god awful. It was terrible. So according to the academic system, like I am not a genius by any means, but you don't have to be. Like you just have to think and be able to control your emotions and not freak out if things start going awry. By the way, that's no different than if you're an officer in the military. It's all the same stuff. The Army will prepare you so well to do this. That's another reason. Like that's one of my kind of like pillars is like the Army prepared me to be able to do all this stuff. It trained me like on my deployment, my second deployment. I was a company commander for an Apache squadron and as an artillery guy. So my chew, like my little bunk bed was maybe 30 feet from an Apache helicopter. And every night for 6 months, they would have night crews and they would go out and they would have jet engines like 30 feet from where I slept at 3 a.m. in the morning. So that was my reality. Like I had to put earplugs in, like it was the room would shake. So if I get to sleep in a bed that there's not an Apache helicopter outside, like just churning, their startup process is like 45 minutes. It's ridiculous. And then they back taxi and like the whole place would shake every night. And like the Army gave that to me. It was pretty miserable while it happened. Like I wasn't sleeping great, but like if I'm not doing that, I'm super happy. Like that sounds wild, but the Army did that for me and it rooted my reality so low that I'm now really happy with anything that I get. So my happiness and my freedom comes faster than other people's because most people need to be making, they want a $350 a year salary and so on and so forth. And they like it's harder to get there. Like me making 3,500, let's say I make $5,000 a month tax free. I got your Lucas. I saw your hand go up. I'll get you in a second. So like, let's say I make $5,000 a month and I live at $3,000 a month. So I got $2,000 in profit. Most people can't live on $5,000 a month. I can, but I also built my life and designed it that way so that I could have this. And I bridge that gap just with knowledge. I listened to somebody who was like, bro, live here instead of here. And then this is your freedom, like here, and then just compound it. And then as you make more money, just stay here and you'll get there faster. Like that's a big part. If you can deny yourself like that satisfaction of like buying a new car, buying something fancy and wait a day or wait a year, you're going to do a lot better because that money's going to compound in the interim and it's going to skyrocket. So there's no guarantee on that, but that's just how I think about it. Go ahead, Lucas. And then Jacob, did you have your hand raised or? Oh, I wasn't sure if you, go ahead.
Yeah, this is on the list, but I was just curious because just some of those struggles, I guess, kind of really made me think, what was like your biggest setback really, and kind of what it's what have you done to kind of
For-
avoid them? What have you learned from them?
Business?
Yes, I guess
Army
from
in
starting
general.
off this process.
Business. Sure. So I don't know if you guys know this, but like there's this whole big pandemic thing. I started a hospitality company just before a global travel pandemic. And I don't know if you guys know this, I would assume you do, but those two don't mix well. I was in the travel industry and I got smoked. Like I built the company. I'll give you a 8-month window. I go to apply for business school here at Ohio State. Didn't get in. They were like, you're not the one. I was like, is it my GPA? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, all right, whatever. So not getting in, I went and started my own business. In that 6 month window, after not getting in, I built my company. I had 6 doors. I remember it like it was yesterday. 6 doors. I was about to have a 10K revenue month or 10K profit month on 6 doors. That does disgusting money for me at the time. Like that was not just army salary. That was like my Airbnb company that I started with 6 doors was making me $10,000 in profit. That was at 40% occupancy before the month of March started. So in February, my numbers for March were 40%, and I was walking away with 10 grand in cash. Paid all my expenses. There was, let's say it's 5 or 6 grand. I was walking away with that. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing it. Met with this real estate agent. Her son was a teacher at Fisher. We met and he's like, dude, you're killing it. He's like, you seem to know a lot about short-term rentals. He's like, you got great experience. Like your numbers are really good. I showed him my Airbnb account and everything. He's like, would you be interested in coming to teach a little bit about this at the Fisher College of Business? And I was like, the business school at Ohio State? He's like, yeah, I'm an adjunct real estate professor and nobody really knows about short-term rentals. So, because I just told you guys the other part of the story, I was like, are we in like some bizarro world where like I'm too dumb to get in, but now 6 months later, I built a company that I learned about on like YouTube, and like you're gonna ask me to come back and teach? That was just a weird interaction. That never happened because what happened in March of 2020, COVID. So now I go from like being kind of excited about to make some money, and after working hard, and I was full-time in the Army, boss and I didn't really get along. We eventually kind of got along, but like there was a lot of friction, and he was always like trying to pull me away from trying to do this stuff. But I'm like on top of the world. So I'm like, this is going to be great. Then COVID happens. You know what happened during COVID? 100% of those reservations went away. I ate like a $25,000 loss out of my pocket and basically went down in flames. From you're going to go teach here. I got a 10K month, and I'm like, this is amazing. Like I've never seen this type of money in my life. And oh my God, I'm doing it. To COVID happens, 0. But the structure of my company at that time was rental arbitrage, which I don't know if you know anything about Airbnb, but you rent units, you pay a fixed rent, whether it's market rent or just higher, and then you keep everything else. That's why my margins were so high. However, I didn't have any equity in those properties, and I still owed the lease. So I was burning a hole in my pocket because I was listing them as short-term rentals on Airbnb. And then there was a travel ban. So I lost 100% of that income. Airbnb changed the policy away from a strict cancellation policy, and they gave everybody their money back. So I just went down with the ship and lost 25 grand or something like that, 20 grand, because I still owed rent for those next couple of months across those units. So it's pretty abysmal. That's the bottom. I don't even think that's really the bottom. There's probably other stuff that happened, but that was a pretty big one. But here's the so what of that. I took COVID objectively bad thing, right? I don't know if you guys have read 4 Hour Work Week. Anybody read that by Tim Ferriss? That's like one of the top 3 recommended books that I would it would behoove you to read that. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And then I'm always a big fan of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's a big mindset book. Those first 2 are a little bit more technical, but COVID, I'll say this, I know COVID was bad for a lot of people, but COVID was, for me as an individual, the best thing that ever happened to me. And that's on the heels of what I just said. I lost 25 grand and like my whole company went away. So I don't know what you guys did for COVID, but I was in the ROTC program as an officer, right? I was teaching. Did you guys go in person? I don't know about you guys, but our program, we were remote for like 5.5, 6 months. So I just got all of my time back and I didn't have to see anybody. And I just sat behind my computer and I read like an absolute monster. I watched YouTube videos. I looked for real estate. That second duplex that I told you guys about earlier, I took the time to do the research for that during COVID and then bought it right at the end of 2020 or early 21. It allowed me to save a boatload of money. So I had more money to put into real estate and I could optimize my entire day. And it changed my life. Like COVID was like where I really objectively bad thing for most of the probably world. Right. But just like if I'm going through a tough time, I wouldn't expect anybody else to care about it. Like just go do your own thing. But also if everybody else is having a tough time, that doesn't mean that you have to have a tough time. It is what you make of it. Good, bad, or indifferent. You control your life and the way that you react to things that happen. So I just did the best I could at that time. And that's where I went from like pit of misery to building myself back up. Once you go through an event like that was a big thing. Because I was like, dude, I'm going to drain my bank account. Like, I'm not going to have any money left. Once you hit that, right, that little like dip, that it's a little bit more than a dip, but once you hit that bottom, where are you going to go? You can mill around on the bottom if you want, or you can do what? Start trying to climb out of the hole, right? So I just said, I'm going to do that. And then this is the thing about entrepreneurship is once you face your first big setback, embrace it, because if you don't die, and if you do die, you're probably not going to know about it. But like, if you don't die, what happens? You just get to restart. You just get to do it again, right? So it builds your confidence, and now you can live to fight another day and realize like, okay, well, this was really bad, but it's really not that bad. Like I can recover from the setback. In fact, it's probably got, we did since then, I started in 2022 was really when we got back on the horse for Airbnb. And we did like 250K in revenue from 22 to 23. So we did 0 to 18 units. And like, I'm nothing special. Like I just built a decent system, and most of that I did by myself with a couple, like 1 or 2 other people. So we did about 200 on Airbnb plus some other fees and stuff. We did about 250 in Airbnb alone. So, and that's not profit, but you bring in 250 in revenue, like that's a step in the right direction to getting to a higher value of a company when you start understanding like valuation and stuff. But it is what you make of it, long story short. If it's shit, then just you're going to let it be shit and that's all, or are you going to take shit and make it into something nice? Is that good? Answer your question, or? And I don't think you guys will face something that drastic. So hopefully it's better for you guys. I don't wish that upon anybody, but if you do face something like that, just know that it's probably the start of something good. All right, so okay, so these are good. So how tough is it to find people to rent your rooms? What are some of the risks associated with renters and finding clients, and how do you maintain the property without being there? Really good questions. So the truth is you never really know. But the more you learn, think of everything that I'm about to say and relate it to this, okay? So you guys are all, prior to me speaking, have you guys ever talked about real estate? Just show of hands. You don't have to, whatever, right? So 50-50, whatever. So I'd say collective for this group, not a lot of people on here have talked about real estate, right? So risk is high or low? High, right? Of course. Great. So risk is high and knowledge is what? Low. You don't know that much about it. Totally fine. Really good start point. All you have to do is increase your knowledge, read a book, watch a video, talk to somebody, listen to me talk, if that helps you. Like, increase your knowledge day by day. Then your risk is going to come down. Risk will never go to zero, and your knowledge will never go all the way up, but you just want to do this. Suppress your risk and increase your knowledge. So tactically, right? How tough is it to rent rooms to your people? I have no idea. But what did I do? I interviewed half a dozen property managers and I asked them a bunch of questions. What do you think rent is for this? How do you solve vacancy? How do you market? How do you do this? Is this a good property to have a tenant? Would you consider renting this property? If it's a good property and they want to manage it, they're going to want to make the most amount of money on it, and they're going to keep their percentage for their hustle. So for my first two that I did, I had two business partners for these. One of them took the helm and he's like, hey, I'm going to go interview these guys and you can do the interviews with me and then we'll figure out who we want to do and we'll go from there. So we interviewed a couple property managers, found the right one, and I haven't touched those properties. We've had our ups and downs. We've had AC units go out, whatever. You'll figure out how to get to where you need to go. Like if a crisis comes up, I always say this, if you think of it this way, if you had to, I'm sure everybody has a best friend, right? Somebody that they care about or love. This might take a dark turn. I promise you there's a purpose behind it. Okay. If that person was going to die, if you didn't solve this problem, would you solve the problem? Whatever it is, how do you maintain the property without being there? If you knew that that's what was on the line, your best homeboy or homegirl or whatever, right? If you knew that you had to solve this problem or else it was their life on the line, I guarantee you would solve that problem. Here's the good thing about what I just said. If you don't solve that problem, let's say that's a hypothetical situation. If you don't solve that problem, you're still going to end up better than where you started. I guarantee it. As long as you go down that road to try and solve things, you're going to be in great shape. Does that make sense? All of these things are just questions. And as soon as you start to solve the problem, you're going to figure out how it works. And you're never going to bring your risk down to zero. There is risk in everything that you do, whether it's the Army, whether it's a retirement system, a 401k. If you invest your money in a 401k, you won't touch the money. Somebody else will manage it for you. And if they lose all the money for you, if the market drops 25%, they're not financially liable for your stuff. And they're still making 2%, whether it goes up, down, or sideways. You own all the risk. I own all of the risk on all of my stuff because I control it, not because I'm a control freak. In fact, I hate controlling things. I'd much rather have somebody else run it for me, but I get the knowledge if I fail. That's the valuable part. If I totally jack up a company and lose 25 grand, I learned everything on the way up and on the way down. a 401k, and I've seen this firsthand. I have guys that are here that are retired that I'm friends with. They're horrified when their 401ks a couple months ago, when stuff was getting real crickety or real rocky, their stuff dumped like 25%. Do you have any idea how scary that is when you have worked your whole life and your money is managed by another person and you just see it go from $100,000 or $500,000 down to 415, 400? That happens. Like the market crashes. If you're only in the market, like you don't get the knowledge of how you invested that money. You don't get to keep that. I get to learn all of the knowledge on the way up and down and sideways. That's why at the end of the day, I'll keep more than most, is because you get to, everything that I've talked about from the last hour and a half is all about knowledge. It's all financial intelligence. It's all your brain. That's what it really is. I've talked to you about a lot of specifics, a lot of real estate. There's a lot of time and energy in all of this stuff, and it's all doable. But don't get too spun around the technicality behind it. Just every day, try and learn something new. If you're doing that every day, you're going to be just fine. I promise. All right. Last couple of you guys getting burnt out. I will run a marathon. Like if you guys want to stay here, don't let me do it, because I will just keep talking to you guys, because I think it's important. But if you guys got to jump off, like I'm not going to hold you up. I'm here to help you guys out. But I got a couple more here if you want me to answer them, or if you want to do Q&A, it's up to you guys.
I think that if we just hit those couple two and then maybe see if there's any other questions, but I think that would pretty much get it.
Sure. All right. So I did setbacks. So most important piece of advice you give to future soldiers who are considering following this plan to achieve financial freedom. Okay, so I'll give you the formula. This is my formula. I created it. All right, my number is 36. I was 36 in college. Everything I do, I just added, what's my company worth? 36 million. I just put $1 million on that. What do I want to be worth over time? I 10x that and said 360 million. I want 36 units. They're completely arbitrary. I just do everything with 36. It has no meaning behind it other than it's a personal thing for me. But here's how I'm going to give you the plan of action. It's very, very, very simple. So my career was about 10 years in the military. All right. So there's 365 days in a year. Take 5 for vacation. Nice, even 360. See how that works out? Okay. 10% of that is 36 days. All right. Divide 36 by 12, because there's 12 months in a year. You get 3. Okay. And for those 3 days per month, you're an ass kicker. So you're going to work 10-hour days. I don't care what combination of 3 10-hour days you put in. I'm going to simplify it for you. That's what you need to do. Okay. That basically breaks down to 1 hour, less than 1 hour a day, about an hour a day. Okay. If you do that formula of putting in 3, let's just pick real estate. If you just learn real estate from today, when you commission, whenever that is, and you stay in the military for 10 years, I'm just giving you my example. You can do 5 years, do whatever you want. 10% of your time, 1 hour a working day, right? Evening, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, whatever that is. Do that for 10 years, 1 hour a day, 10% of those 10 years. So what's 10% of 10 years? 1 year. So by that 10-year mark, you'll be 30, 34. I'm about that, right? 33. That's very young in the grand scheme of life. I still got like 2 more full lives ahead of me, right? If you do that at that 10-year mark, you will have done the Army all day, every day. Rah, 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 right? And then additionally, you will also have done real estate every single day for 10 hours a day for 360 days. Congratulations, you'll be an expert. And the best part about this is, remember I taught you about compounding knowledge or compounding interest. Einstein said compounding interest is the #1 most powerful force in the world. He's close. It's compounding knowledge. Knowledge is better than interest. So the hour that you did an hour and a half today. Congratulations, you're well on your way. You exceeded the standard, right? If you do an hour today, you're not going to forget that information. You're going to do an hour tomorrow. That's going to compound. The next day, you're going to do another hour. Maybe something you learned on day 3 is going to be relevant to what you learned on day 1. And then you're going to spark and it's going to be like, oh, damn, that's good. I remember that. And now this adds up with this, and A plus B equals C. If you do that every single day in some form of that, it could be 15 minutes, podcast on the way into work, Audible 10 minutes when I wake up in the morning, 15 minutes. If you do that a little bit better every single day, even if you don't buy real estate, even if you don't do a thing that I just told you about, you will be unbelievably intelligent and knowledgeable at that 10-year mark, and you'll be a rock star. If you work down towards starting your own business or a side hustle or buying real estate or something, it's going to be a tenfold return. That is the most important thing that I would tell anybody. It has nothing to do with real estate. It has nothing to do with money, debt, money, taxes, whatever, financial freedom. Invest in yourself every single day, because the world will take it away from you. You have to go to ranges, you go to PT, you got family. Find time for yourself, because you will be the only constant in your life for the duration of your life. People will come in, they'll go out, they'll come in, they'll come out, family, friends, bosses, seniors, subordinates, whatever. Find time every single day to invest in yourself. That is the best thing that I can tell you. End of story on that. That's just invest in yourself an hour a day. That's the magic formula. If you happen to do it for real estate or something else, you're going to crush it. You will be a monster by that 10-year mark. Some of the other financial benefits, members of the U.S. military eligible for. Okay, I can give you 2 or 3. So here's some cool ones. So Amex Prime, go do that. It's linked in my bio. I think I get a benefit off that. You guys might get a benefit off that. Don't take my card. Do it. Don't do it. As soon as you get your commission, go sign up for the Amex Platinum card. It has great benefits, and it's actually kind of sick. Like, throw it down. It's clinky. It's kind of cool, but go do it. It's free for you guys. You don't pay it's like $650 a year. Every lieutenant should have that. It's going to build your credit. Never do credit and roll it over to pay your APR. Always take a boatload of credit card debt out and pay it off in full monthly. Your credit score will go through the roof. Okay. Get a Costco membership for $120 a year. Get the Costco credit card, the Visa Costco credit card. I think it's a Visa. Might be a MasterCard, but get the associated credit card. Okay. That credit card, I got like 10 grand on that. You can flip 0% credit card bills or credit cards to help you invest in real estate or get started at low risk. Okay. So let's say that me and Jacob, we're going to go partner on a VA loan and we're going to buy a duplex. All right. Jacob's got 10,000 credit limit and I got 10,000 credit limit. That's not our money. We have a 12%, 0%, or sorry, not even a 12 month. It's a 0% credit while you are in. So if you're on active duty, you incur 0%. You owe nothing. It's a loan for 0%. Okay. So Jacob and I can go buy a property, and let's say he's got 5 grand and I got 5 grand. He can take that and I can take the other 10 grand. And now we can go sink 20 grand into that credit card or into that property. We can buy a hot tub. We can redo the rooms. We can do the floors. We can increase the value on that for 20 grand. And we can end up paying $100 a month each. And let's say we rent out the rooms or we make a little bit of money on it. But even if we're taking our active duty salary for $100 a month, that's the minimum. We can roll that over for months while we're on active duty. And then if we need to, we can eventually pay that off. Stretch your cash out and keep as much as you can on hand. Nobody knows about that. I would flip if I could do it all over again. If I knew about that earlier, I would have been churning that stuff. I did it when I did my duplex. That was beneficial. Got brand new appliances. I put like 8K on a credit card for 18 months, financing at 0%. I got brand new appliances for both units for $8 grand. Didn't pay $1 out of pocket. I used the rental income to pay down the monthly premium. I just set it up and basically did 12 months or whatever, 8 grand divided by 12 months, and then had my tenants rent pay down that debt. It's a hack. It's just work smarter, not harder. Get that. I would recommend doing those two, the Amex Platinum. I started an Airbnb business, so I did a lot of stuff off Amazon Prime. So I got the free Amex Platinum card, and then I added the Amex Prime. So I get 5% back on all my purchases. Let's say we bill out 50 grand in furniture a year. I run that up on my credit card, get 50K in points at 5%, bill that back as part of our contract. We do 15% premiums on whatever we do for our clients. So if I run up 50 grand, I get the credit card points. I make 15% on that 50 grand as revenue for the company. I charge them back that fee plus the amount for the furnishings. I get the credit card points and I get the cash back from them. It's a game. Once you start making tactical or strategic moves like that, every single one of you guys that's stayed on for this long, you can do all this shit. It is money is a game. Like somebody said it a while ago, it's kind of cheesy, but it makes sense. If you figure out the game, you won't get played. If you figure out how money and all this stuff works, you'll be just fine. It's not at VA loan. Pay most of your attention to that stuff. You do get really good veteran benefit loans for small businesses. I haven't done that yet. The terms are usually pretty good. But I've given you guys enough in just those couple of things, 0% credit cards to churn all that stuff out. You'll be in good shape. That's about it. I open up for Q&A. Up to you guys. You don't all have to jump in at once.
I have a question.
What's up?
I'm sorry. So like with all the properties that you manage, not that you directly manage them, but like what does an average day, like an average work day look for you?
For me?
Look for you. Yes.
Good question. So most of my work days, every day is different. I try and do like some stuff in the morning. I started with jujitsu. I'll go to the gym, start out with a little bit of like stuff in the morning. You got to make time for yourself or else the world will just rob it from you. But my days, they're all different. I have people that are starting to manage the day to day, and you might have to tell me what. So like I'm interested in like seeing what's so funny.
Sorry,
I'm not
roommate.
I'm just
My roommate's just on a call with his friend, and it's just over here, and it's just so annoying. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good.
So are they like pretty long though?
Nah, I get 8 hours of sleep a
Okay.
night. I don't mess around. Like I do the best I can. I try to take care of my body. I try to do good stuff. You play the long game. But I've
Okay.
got about 6 kids working for me. I just brought in a bunch of interns. And when you first start out, you are working on in your business. I did the
Okay.
flip, I cleaned, I did all the dirty shit. You want to get out of the business of working in the business as fast as you can and start working on your business. So when you work on your business, let's say, whatever, there's 9 of you guys here. Let's say that if I'm working on my business, Lucas is going to do marketing. Ben is going to be a sales guy. Ben and Jake, you guys are going to be sales. Jacob is
Okay.
going to be the cleaning team lead. So I'm just interfacing with you guys and making sure that everybody's working together. By the way, this is called being a platoon leader. You're working with your first squad leader, second, third, your weapon squad leader, your platoon sergeant, right? You got your medic, your
Yep.
specialty. That's all that it is. You want to get, and that's what the Army is going to train you guys to do. You're naturally in the loop for that. So if you do that, you want to get out of your business and work on it and think strategically.
Okay.
I spend most of my time now. I get, I do speaking engagements where I'm talking about the company. I'm talking to investors. I'm lining up stuff in the future. I'm going to start traveling a lot. Looking for new opportunities, new markets. Like it's just, you want to not be, you will eventually run yourself into the ground if you try and do it all yourself. You have to step back and be able to like have other people do stuff for you.
Okay.
So you kickstart
Perfect.
it. But my days they're long. I mean, I have great days, I have tough days, but like for the most part, like it's better because I'm doing the shit that I like doing, as opposed to, I just didn't, at the end of my career, I didn't like people telling me what to do. It just got annoying. Like I really enjoyed teaching, but I just got tasked with like, is a bunch of kind of BS for me. It needed to be done. Like it helped the program run. But towards the end, I just kind of got to the point where I didn't want other people telling me what to do with my life. I wanted to help my cadets and stuff, but I didn't want to do taskers. I just didn't like doing that stuff and it wasn't serving me. So I just put in my paperwork to get out. And now I do every day, every single thing that I do benefits me or the people that I'm working with in a positive way. Like I enjoy all of it. Shitty days, good days, they're all great days because I get to do what I'm set out to do. So overall, day to day is not bad at all.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem. All right. What is your advice for finding the optimal housing markets to invest in? So, James, good question. So, there's what I said about learning. That's the most important part. Go talk to agents, go talk to investors, go talk to lenders, do your own due diligence and read. Here's what I will tell you. The Army and military towns are basically government subsidized housing. So what that means is every year, brand new lieutenants, just like you guys are about to be, are going to come in and they're going to come into that town. You're going to get a mortgage and you're going to get some taxes. If your debt is paid down every year, if you buy a house for $250,000 and you put it on a 30-year note and it doesn't go up in value at all, and you just rent it and it literally flatlines at 250. In 30 years, which is most people's retirement, you now have an asset that is liquid at $250,000. If you do that 4 times, you have $1 million retirement policy. So I have $1 million plus in debt. And right now that stuff, a little bit over that, but that stuff is earning, even now in this market, let's say it's 6 or 7%. So how many times, let's say for argument's sake, it's 10% a year. In 10 years, that'll double. In 20 years, or whatever, like so on and so forth, right? 10 years, it doubles. Another 10 years, it goes up again, so on and so forth. So if I go for $1 million in 20 or 30 years, those properties are gonna be worth $4 or $5 million, and they'll be paid off. My debt will have gone down to zero because they will have been rented, my 30-year fixed mortgages on it, they'll be zero at 30 years, and I'll have $4 or $5 million in cash like clockwork. If you just do that and get started, man, that's all you need. That's how important that stuff is. Like, buy a couple single family homes, figure out how to rent them, and that's it. Like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a multi-millionaire. You don't have to shoot for 360 or whatever. You can look for a couple million in real estate, sell it and off it, and then, or do seller financing, and then just start making a couple $1,000s a month in gains. And that's my retirement. That's how I planned it. So instead of getting paid by the Army or whatever, I got out early. I have 10 years to, this is what really hit me when I decided to get out. A general makes about $100 an hour, maybe a little bit more. As a senior captain, I was making about $50 an hour. So I had 10 years to double from 50 to 100. In the 3 years that I was at Capital, or 2 years that I was at Capital, I was making in revenue, I was bringing in more than my boss. I bought real estate. Each of my properties in revenue just in Columbus bring in about 85 or 90K a year. Plus, let's say it's 100K in real estate revenue. Airbnb company did 250. Crypto company did like 25 or 30. I've got some other stuff coming in. That puts me at being an accredited investor over the last 2-year span. And, you take all of that stuff. I need a margin of like 15, 20% to be a salary of like 50 or 60 grand a year. If I can do that in 1 year, that's why I care about this stuff so much. It's like, dude, I'm nothing special. If we went to school together, I would be the brick in the program, and I would be failing everything, and I'd be in the PMS's office, and he'd be like, dude, what are you doing? And I'd be like, I'm trying, but we don't work. Like, I just don't get the school thing. But everything that I've done since getting out of that, I mean, there's not a lot of people, I don't say this as like a brag, there just physically isn't a lot of people that have done the things that I did. Everybody goes from the Army and goes to a job. They go work for Booth, they go to Booth, they go to HBS, they go to all these schools, and they'll make $350 a year with their bonuses, but they're not having time to do the stuff that I'm doing. They'll never build a multi-million-dollar. My company right now, I talked to my CPA, we're valued somewhere between like 400 and 500K. So in a year, I built let's say $500,000 company. I'm nothing special. Anybody can do this. But when you start playing a different game, your numbers start looking totally different. You're looking at equity, you're looking at cash flow, you're looking at future potential value, as opposed to I'm going to get 300 a year to work for this fancy company. I'm going to drive a Beamer, but I'm going to get dragged over the coals when it comes tax season because I have nothing to offset my taxes, and I'm going to pay 40% back to Uncle Sam. You want to know an uncomfortable fact? You work for the government for the first 3 months of the year. So businesses, nobody knows this. So you get taxes scraped out of your paycheck every month, but W-2 employees, government employees too, they get paid, and the government basically says, screw you, pay me first, then you spend what's left. As an LLC or as a business owner, I spend first. Let's say I make 100K, I spend 50 and then get taxed on 50. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 50. I'm going to go finance a truck that falls under section 179. And I'm going to buy a truck for 50 grand and put 5 grand down and substitute that as a business expense. And now I have the truck, and I take the 50 grand that I owed taxes on and depreciate that all down to zero. So I'll have 50 grand in cash that I won't pay tax on because I learned the system. Now I've got the truck. The truck increases the potential of future earnings for the company. And I keep that 50 grand in cash and I roll that over to something else. I'm telling you that because I literally did that this year. My 4Runner that I bought in 2016 qualifies for section 179. And I just wrote off 45 grand on this past tax season. under section 179 because I've never taken the deduction. So all you guys that go out there and you buy a 4Runner or you buy a F-150 or whatever truck you buy, if you have a business and if that business, and if you use it for 10% of the time, let's say you have an outdoor business and you do guns, you do content for a hunting company, whatever that is, right? Like if you're driving out to the woods and let's say all of those trips total up to be $10,000 a year and you put $100K on that car, you now depreciate, you can write off that $100,000 or that 10 grand in gas maintenance. You write off 10% of your vehicle. That's not exact science, but it works generally like that. If you just start playing a different game and start looking at the world, like I can tell you this pretty handedly. You talk to any person don't listen to me. Go talk to anybody that built a business. School isn't where you learn this stuff. It's not taught. I asked 50 different cadets over the span of 2.5 years. Hey, if you didn't have to worry about money, what would you be doing? Would you still be in the ROTC program? Would you still be going to nursing school? Would you still be doing this? Like 95% of them said, no, I'd be doing this. So why do we have an entire generation of kids going to school to do shit that they don't fucking want to do? Why? Why are we not teaching this type of stuff? Right? Like just go. Do you think that if I could get whoever, it's 5 or 6 kids left on the call, right? If I could get you guys to the point where you were happy doing the stuff that you want to do and you're making money doing that, and everybody has bad days, right? When you have a bad day, you generally take it out on somebody else. So what if you had a better day because you were happy doing the things that you wanted to do? Don't you think you'd be nicer to other people? Don't you think if more people were doing things that they want to do and enjoy doing, they'd probably just be happier? That has the potential. People are angry and mean right now because they're getting crushed under inflation and taxes and the other stuff that's going on in the world. Nobody's teaching. It's the knowledge game. Knowledge is what will take you through a recession. We're in one and we're probably not coming out of one anytime soon. So whatever you make, take 10% of it, write it off to inflation, take another 25 or 30%, write that off to taxes, and then try and live off of that. But you're working for all of that time. You're working a 40-hour work week. You're only getting credit for 19, 20 hours. That's what the school system is teaching. Whether you go to Harvard, whether you go to Booth, or whether you go to Capital or wherever, that's all they're teaching. They teach you, you go to the ROTC program, you come out, what's your only option? Pretty much. Go into the Army. Like that's it, right? So all these other kids that major in a thing, they pick the major. What's their only option? Go get a job doing that thing. Well, I watched kids here in Columbus that graduated during COVID, and the stuff that they went to school for didn't exist during COVID. So these kids are walking away with 50 grand in debt that kicks in 6 months at $300 or $400 a month, and they don't have a job. That's not 1 or 2 kids. That's hundreds of thousands of kids across the country. Meanwhile, I'm over here on YouTube, listening to Audible books, paying no taxes because you're playing a different game, because I'm playing the game that they don't teach you about. I'm not even that good at it. In fact, I'm really not good at it at all. I'm just like flying by the seat of my pants, but some of the things are working, right? So I don't know if this stuff was helpful for you guys, but you guys got to get going. I'll stay on if you want to ask some more questions. If not, it's good talking to you all. I'll put this up. I got to edit it and do some stuff to it, but I'll put it up on YouTube. Appreciate you guys having me on. Hope I answered your questions. Don't walk away from this thing doom and gloom. I'm just telling you guys what's out there. You guys are going to be set. You walk away, you have basically no student loan debt. You've got the best, most bulletproof job in the country right now. It's guaranteed by the government. You guys are in exceptionally good financial shape coming out of an ROTC program. I promise you. The reason I talk about this stuff is because you guys are coming out better than everybody else across the board. You guys will have the footing, the mental and physical toughness. Like you guys will, it'll just happen naturally in 3 to 5 years. You have the propensity to help other people. That's why I'm spending my time with you. Because I don't need to talk to you guys. I don't need to build my business. I can fuck off for basically ever. I built enough. I got a couple rentals and I live and I'm very happy where I live. I'm killing it for my own standard. I have to tell you guys this stuff. Like I have to build this business and talk to you guys about this stuff because it just, I couldn't sit with myself morally if I didn't tell more people about it. Because it's a gift. It's a secret that I somehow stumbled into and I can't sit idly by. You know, they say like, you know, if you can, you must. I can teach you guys about this. I can help people understand it. And I can talk to a lot more people and help other people get started. And it's the stress level, it's higher. I'm performing at a higher level, but monetarily, I don't worry about money. So I don't worry about getting pinched about, you know, oh, you know, it's too much. I can't afford this. I can't afford that. I figure out how to do it. And then if somebody comes to me, I'll leave you with this. This is just a way of thinking. If you have a friend, you know, I talked about your friend, the, you know, avatar friend that gets, you know, if you don't figure this out, that person goes away. If you have an expense and one of your friends or your family member gets, God forbid, sick, and they're like, insurance isn't covering it, it's 50 grand, or they get into a car accident or whatever. Just there's an expense of 50 grand. If you make 100K a year and you live off of 75, you don't have that money. But most of the time, the problem is money. Oh, this person isn't healthy. Money can probably assist in helping them get better. Right? I've got this problem. I need a mortgage paid off. I had this, whatever. Money just solves the problem faster most of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes you need empathy. Sometimes you need to talk to people, just be there for them. Most of the time, in my experience and other people's experience, it's money, right? So if you can build a multi-million-dollar business, you need to build a multi-million-dollar business in order to have that 50 grand to give to that person in their time of need. Because if you don't do that, you won't have it, and then you can't help that person. That's how I think of this stuff. I can, so I must. I can build a $360 million empire. I can build a $36 million short-term rental real estate company. I can do those things. And if I'm not an asshole of a boss, or I you know, empathize and I try to treat people to the best of my ability and make them great employees or make them like individuals and help them, if they only want to stay with me for a year, my goal is to make them successful in life. Most people don't do that. That's just what I'm trying to do. But if I can, then I must, right? That's just how I think about it. Not everybody thinks that way, but I have to explain this to you guys. You're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. You're either going to do it or not do it. Individually, you will all be successful. But for me to sleep at night, I need to say, okay, I tried to at least help these kids get started. I tried to be the person at 34 that I needed when I was 23, 24, that didn't exist because there's nobody came into my life that said, hey, pay attention to this. You're going to need it. So that's why I'm here talking to you guys. That's why I'm driving on my own dime down to Fort Sill to explain this to lieutenants that are now at the starting line. You're in like bonus time right now, but these guys are in the military, they're in the Army, and they're at the starting line. And if nobody injects into their life and says, hey, pay attention to this, it's going to be important for everything that I just explained over the last 2 hours, it's not going to happen. They're not going to get it unless somebody comes into their life, and your battalion commander isn't going to do it. Your company commander isn't going to do it. If you don't come from a business family, your parents aren't going to do it. Like, just how it is, right? So if it's me and I'm the one, fantastic. Don't give me the credit. Just go do great shit. So Ben, appreciate you reaching out to me. I hope this is beneficial. I'll work on some other stuff, but you'll have the video. I should be able to get you guys over some more notes on this stuff. Maybe post some, I think a link page with the other benefits that I was talking about might be more beneficial. But anything else? You guys all good? Last thing I'll say, there's what, 15 kids that started in business and in life. Just show up and stay till the end. If you do that, all of my opportunities, you don't have to be good. You just barely have to have a pulse. I learned this a long time ago. Somebody told me this, and like, just show up. You don't have to be dressed nice. Just be there. So if you just show up to things, you will be surprised like what happens. So just show up. If you, real estate, there's a showing, there's a whatever, just go there. Just show up and do something. You don't have to do anything. Just show up. If you do something there, maybe you meet somebody, you never know who you're going to meet. Just continuously show up every single day and things will start to turn in your direction over time. I will guarantee that. Can't guarantee you guys will do anything that I talked about. But if you do that, I can guarantee you that things over time, if you just keep showing up every single day and don't quit, things will start to get better. Your life will get better. So, all right, man. Good meeting you all. Best of luck. Go do great things. If you guys got any questions, just let me know.